Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Study with IT Masters and Charles Sturt University ADF Cyber Gap Program, a webinar presented by IT Masters on behalf of Charles Sturt University. My name is Guy Cowd, and I'll MC this webinar. Wherever you're watching this or listening along, we hope you are safe and well and comfortable, whether it's tonight or in the future. Before we begin, just some housekeeping. We run all IT Masters webinars on Zoom. We're making a recording for those who haven't made it along, as we do for all of our educational content as well. For those of you listening along later to the recording, when we send it out via email, along with a bunch of other resources, hello, and hope you have a fun time listening along. For those who are here, we use the Q&A and chat functions of Zoom during our live webinars, and we think they contribute to a really useful learning environment or exchange of information in this case. We ask that you use chat for sort of tangentially related topics or sort of fleshing out anything in particular that any of the presenters are talking about. But if you're looking to ask a question sort of directly relating to the slide content, chuck that in the Q&A, and if it's particularly relevant, I'll just interrupt the speaker and put the question to them. For those of you who have never engaged with us, first of all, welcome, thank you. IT Masters is a training organisation that exists as a partner exclusively to Charles Sturt University. We work with them to create and deliver a number of master's courses in the IT space, or IT adjacent, sometimes as I like to call it, with a sort of MBAs or marketing. We also market these courses on their behalf and hope and think that the best way to do that is give some of it away free. If we do a good enough job, then students will be encouraged to enroll in the full masters if it suits them. We also like to think that we keep up well with industry opportunities. And one of those industry opportunities is the ADF Cyber Gap Program. Slide, please, Fulia. Thank you. So to talk about that, please join me in welcoming Fulia Kundakchila, IT Masters ADF program and general subject coordination expert. We've also got Chantel Hale, who no doubt a lot of you will have seen from all of the emails that we send out. Welcome to the lists. IT Master CEO and longtime education director, just really experienced hand. And we've got Hannah Clark around, IT Masters Marketing and Short Course Manager, who will be moderating the chat and just generally making sure this webinar goes fairly smoothly. I'm sure many of you will remember Hannah from our short course program. Just a brief agenda. Fulia will cover what the ADF Cyber Gap program is broadly, and then we'll talk about some of the advantages of studying with IT Masters and Charles Sturt University as part of your application process. That'll be Chantel. Fulia will utilise vast experience dealing with the ADF and dealing with people that have applied for the ADF Gap program to give a few tips and handy hints that might just be that little extra bit of help that you need to get across the line. At very least, it might just ease your mind a little bit as you go into the application process, and we'll talk about how it all works, sort of the reimbursement considerations and I guess next steps. Yeah, as I say, use the Q&A if you want to check something out, and if anything comes up throughout the webinar, we'll have a nice extended session at the end. All right, you might hand over now to Fulia to have a chat about the ADF Gap program as it looks like it will happen in 2022.
Welcome and good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning. I'll just begin with ADF, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask, as Guy said, under the Q&A portion. To those who don't know what the ADF Gap program, I'll talk a little bit about the history and where it comes from. So some of you might know, but according to Australia's cybersecurity strategy, government will be investing $1.67 billion over the 10 years to achieve their vision of creating a more secure online world for Australians. With such growing demand and partly due to cyber skill shortage, Australian Defence Force has partnered with the government to provide ADF Cyber Gap program again for 2022. This program is part of a 41 million initiative and aims to train an additional 800 cybersecurity experts over the coming 3 years by providing financial support, mentoring, and work experience for Australian citizens engaged in cyber-related studies. This program was initially introduced back in 2020 through a pilot program, which hosted 50 students, and then later on, second round was introduced and open to 250 students. With, they participated in 21 out of 1,000 applicants. In 2022, this program is hoping to host another 300 students. Overall, our students did extremely well. In total, we had roughly 48 students who were accepted and participated in the program across both of the rounds. So out of 300 students, we had 48 of them from our courses. And if you were to ask what are some of the benefits of this course, Cyber Gap program includes generous financial support to cover fees reimbursed up to $15,000, which if you look at it, that's a whole graduate certificate for you, or first 4 subjects of a master's degree. There's also separate $600 payments for textbooks and stationery, and a total of $2,500 allowance for academic ICT costs, which I know Guy has a great idea where you should spend that money on. If you want to interrupt me, Guy.
Yeah, or at least I think I do. I assume most of you will have plenty of good IT tech if you're keen on doing a master's in cybersecurity or something similar. So I would think that the extra funding, if you are successful, should go towards things like subscriptions or memberships to a lot of the platforms that you'll be using in the next phases of your career, or at least, very least, that we use in the delivery of our education of the master's subjects. Like you might be able to upgrade your student account for the Amazon Web Services, for example, to a paid account. And I think that would be something that would be a perfect example of what to use, just to sort of see what things you can break, or how to break things in particular platforms, get some maybe virtual machine subscriptions and just sort of go nuts with them, and sort of break it in a safe space.
And some more, benefits with this program is having 2 cyber exposure experiences, including online opportunities, professional membership to Australian Computing Society, and career mentoring sessions with assistance in preparing professional cyber job applications. There is also a range of networking opportunities for you with peers in the other digital programs, as well as your mentors in the defense. But you should know that there is no obligation for you to join Defence Force, so you don't have to actually quit your day jobs. And you can live anywhere around in Australia. Just give it to
Sorry,
Chantal.
I've been using Zoom for about 1 million years and I still didn't manage to correctly unmute myself, which is fun. Hi, I'm Chantal, and I'll speak a little bit about the IT Masters courses in general. And these are the courses that you can specifically enroll in if you want to try out for this ADF Cyber Gap program. There are 5 IT Masters courses that are eligible for the ADF Cyber Gap program: the Graduate Certificate in Cybersecurity, the Masters of Business Administration Computing, the Masters of Cloud Computing and Virtualization, and the Master of Cybersecurity, or the Master of Networking and Systems Administration. You'll see a graduate certificate is made up of 4 subjects and a master's degree is made up of 12 subjects. But if you choose the correct subjects to study in the grad cert, those 4 subjects can be used in your master's. And so Guy's running a poll about who's interested in what course.
Yeah.
And as expected, we're seeing a lot of interest in the cybersecurity courses.
Yeah, you would expect that. Bit of context. Previously, it was just the grad cert, wasn't it, Chantal or Fulia? But they've expanded it to masters, or to the wider array of masters options, because there's plenty of scope for using a lot of the electives in those courses for cybersecurity.
That's correct. So there's some crossover with our subject selection in all of our courses. And if you had a look at the structures, you'll see some of the subjects repeating themselves on the other courses under the electives portion. So that's one of the reasons, I believe.
Yeah, and previously it was just the grad cert because the 15K, I guess, reimbursement was not enough to go for a whole master's. But I think they've gone to like a model where they just give you the 15K and you're sort of on the hook for the rest of the masters. Is that right?
Sounds about right. Yes. So
they probably wouldn't put it in that way.
Yeah, well, they haven't put it in that way at all in their application form, but it sounds like that when they edit the master's portion as well as the graduate diplomas for other courses.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating in the poll. We've had 170 responses. So I'll end the poll and share it. And as you can see, 44% going for the grad cert cybersecurity, 40% for the Master of Cybersecurity. So for the 50 odd who didn't respond, I should have put an unsure option there. I guess we'll have a chat about, course selection later on. And I guess that's part of what Chantel will be talking about in terms of where IT Masters comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that all of our IT Masters courses have a very similar structure, which is half of the subjects are academic subjects and half of the subjects are industry subjects. So for a grad cert, that's 2 subjects academic and 2 subjects industry. And for a master's, 6 subjects academic, 6 subjects industry. The academic subjects are created and taught by CSU academics. And with those, we're really aiming to give you an academic grounding in the topics you're learning. So they can be technical and hands-on, but they generally have more of an academic bent than the industry subjects. And then those industry subjects, and you can see that they're in Group B elective industry subjects, they're written and delivered by IT Masters with industry professionals leading them. So these are often based on industry certifications like the CASSP or the Certified Ethical Hacker. And the main aim of these subjects is to tie the academic knowledge students have received into the real world practice and learn how to apply this knowledge. So most IT Masters teachers or mentors, as we call them, work in the industry and they teach of an evening. So not only can they tell you how to do things, but how things are done in the industry. While you're studying with IT Masters and CSU, we're hoping to give you a really good online experience because we have been teaching purely online for about 20 years now. So we've got a lot of experience and we've seen a lot of trends come and go. All classes and exams are taught and delivered online, and you're not expected to attend campus at any stage unless you want to go to graduation when you finish and put some names to faces. All of the subjects have online study materials, like what you can see on the right of the screen there, and that's one of the subjects that we're teaching at the moment, where you've got weekly materials ranging from textbook readings and journal articles to hands-on activities and labs to audio and video lectures, etc. And then we also run online webinars every week where you can ask your mentor questions and learn from your peers and have a bit more of a sort of face-to-face experience. And somebody there has mentioned Mr. Constable, a top bloke, and we'll be talking about his new short course in just a second. But one of the things is because our mentors are working professionals, IT Masters does take on a lot of the admin work so that you can always call us up and speak to a person, even if it may not necessarily be your mentor. And you could send an email and get a response really quickly. So even for the CSU subjects, we often get students still contacting IT Masters because they know if they call us up, they'll speak to somebody who has more knowledge about their current situation than they would normally get if they just call the main number for a university or a university subject course. So while you're studying with us, there are several credit options. There are 4 main ways that you can get credit with IT Masters courses. So most of the industry subjects have industry exams that they're based on. And if you complete those exams, you can receive credit for these subjects. So for example, if you're a certified ethical hacker with the EC Council, you should be eligible to receive credit for the subject ITA 516. So that experts in this area don't really have to study something they already know a lot about. You can also receive credit for previous postgraduate credits, and this is for subjects that cover 80% of the same material as a subject in our courses. So while IT Masters doesn't give credit based on previous work experience, If you are an ACS member and apply to have your level of experience assessed, you can get 2 subjects credit if you're an ACS certified professional or an ACS certified cybersecurity professional, or 1 subject of credit if you're an ACS certified technologist or an ACS certified cybersecurity technologist. And if you are accepted into the ADF Cyber Gap Program, you do actually receive free ACS membership. So that puts you 1 step closer to that. The last way to get credit with the IT Masters courses is to sit and pass 3 or more of our IT Masters free short courses, which can give you 1 IT Masters elective subject credit into your degree. We even have a new short course running tomorrow. It starts tomorrow, sorry. It's cryptography with Matt Constable. And so you can see it there, and Hannah's put in the link in the chat there. So check that one out if you want, but you can also sit some of the older short courses so that you can get the credit you need. And if you're interested in finding out how much credit you're eligible based on any of these criteria, we have an online eligibility form, which I know has been linked to, but check it out as well, which can tell you not only how much credit you should be eligible for, but also just to find out if you have everything you need to gain entry into our courses. Just a note here, the maximum level of credit you can receive for any course in Australia is 50%. And you can receive credit at any time in your studies up until graduation. So for instance, if you get into the Master of Cybersecurity and you are also accepted into the ADF Cyber Gap Program, you can sit 4 subjects, you can sit however many subjects you can fit in next year, and then you can also get credit for the short courses if you choose to sit those after you've completed your ADF subjects, etc. So you can get credit at any time up until you finish your degree.
Yeah, just on the credit, for the 44% of people that did the grad cert, it'd be an interesting question as to whether you would want to get like these 4 subjects out of the grad cert, which is about 13 grand, I think, 13 or 14, or whether you want to go for credit straight away and just sort of do 2 subjects. That would be possible. I'm not sure how it would work with the ADF, and we'd probably have to, check. But for those that are keen on the grad cert for sure, but maybe sort of not sure whether they can commit to the whole masters, it might be a really good idea to, in the cybersecurity space, to sort of fit in with the ADF. It might be a really good idea to apply for the grad cert, and then get all of that paid for with the program, assuming you're successful, and then sort of targeting specific ways of getting 50% credit on top of that. So you go for particular certifications, and you could conceivably only be paying for 2 subjects down the end. For a full master's, you could sort of smash out the grad cert and work towards the end of it a bit more slowly as you sort of consolidate your position in the field.
And somebody had asked about, is this centered around joining the ADF as part of the Cyber Gap Program? I know that questions go in Q&A, but this, we did say it before, but it's really important to know that you are under no requirement to join the ADF if you do this course.
Yeah.
So I might pass it back to Fulia.
Yeah. Let's get into those tips for the applications.
Yes, I'll tell you more about it. But just to touch on from what we talked about previously, you'll definitely be in a financially better position if you were accepted into Cyber Gap Program and applied your credits later on in your studies. So just think about what you're eligible and which subjects you might be getting credit for, but don't apply them straight away, as you'll get reimbursed by ADF if you were to be accepted. But let's talk about some of the tips. So to be eligible for the program, let's talk about your eligibility first, and then I'll tell you more about how to apply, where to apply, what happens next. To be eligible for the program, you must be an Australian citizen living in Australia and already studying or currently enrolling in a cyber-related qualification, which is where we come in. Cyber Gap Program runs for 12 months, and you need to be studying for the duration of the program, which means you can start in our January or late February intakes. And if you're interested in this program, first step will be to apply online for one of our eligible courses with IT Masters and CSU. And application process will only take about 15 minutes to complete via the CSU online application form. If you're unsure about which session or term to select for your studies, you can refer to our FAQ pages. Further information has been given there about our study intakes and their differences. However, for the purpose of ADF and Cyber Gap Program, Term 1 and Session 1 study intakes will fit more into their study area. I'll talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, those two intakes will fit exactly well with what they're offering. And once you submit your application, one of our admissions team members will be in touch with you, advising you of the outcome or whether any further information is required for you to start your studies with us. In the meantime, if you have any questions about your application, once you submit, and if you have any questions about your application during that period, you can also contact our amazing team directly at admin@itmasters.edu.au, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Fully, just before we move on, I just feel like we should say that it is not, IT Masters is not, and Charles Sturt University is not the only institution you can enroll with in order to apply for the ADF program. We just think we're the best one. So do your own research, and as they say on the internet, and and if you have any questions about the quality of our stuff, then you can come and contact us.
Correct. So there's whole heaps of other courses, even a certificate 3 level is eligible for this program. But guys, right, we're the best, or we believe we're the best. So if you have any questions about us, contact us. But there are other courses and other providers who can provide you some of the courses. To continue on with some of the tips, so we talked about how to apply from the link, and then once you apply, you'll receive a confirmation of enrollment to one of our IT Masters CSU courses. And the second step is then to go onto the Digital Profession website and begin the process of filling in your application for the ADF Cyber Gap Program. So note that there are 2 separate applications, first one being made to university and for the course that you want to study, and second one made directly to ADF for the Cyber Gap Program. If you want some insider tips and tricks for your ADF application, which is for the Cyber Gap Program, I suggest for all of you to have a look at our student testimonials page, which includes IT Masters CSU students who are currently part of the 2021 Cyber Gap Program. If you have a look on that website, you will see there's Catherine. She's one of our current students studying graduate certificate in cybersecurity. And she suggests that when answering your questions, it is worth putting in the time and effort and really considering your answers. This is very important to note because some of the previous successful applicants were solely assessed and selected by what was written in their application forms. They did not require to attend the interview stage, which they credit to their answers. Also, you should know that Cyber Gap Program applications cannot be saved and completed at a later stage. And for that reason, ADF recommended for everyone to complete their responses in a word process document. Once your responses are finalized, you can then copy and paste them into the responses boxes online at the online application form. But if you start filling out your application at that time, your web page might time out and then might clear it all. So please make sure to have a Word file of all your answers first, and then when you're confident and when you're satisfied with your answers, copy and paste them there.
And we're aware of the sort of bizarreness of the fact that you need to do that instead of going to a website that's designed properly.
Maybe once they have some trained cybersecurity people, that won't be the case.
Yeah, get in there.
They need them. I can assure you they need they need those kind of specialists in there. So once you do that, another very important piece of information that you should note is that 2022 intake is predicted to be very competitive. So as you know, this program has been around for 2 years prior, so the third intake is going to be massive. So please take your time to ensure that your application is completed correctly before you submit your application. Applications for the program will close at midnight on Sunday, 31st of October, and late applications won't be considered. So please check your time zone so you're on time. As we all know, a lot of people, I'm sure there's some kind of study out there, loves doing assignments, work last minute on one of them. So please put a reminder on your phone or a calendar so you don't miss on it. And another huge information that we should tell, which I know Chantal and Guy told you, but the selection process is processed by ADF and digital profession only. We have no say or means in it. So if you have any questions about the program, specific details about the program, please email them directly. They are very responsive. You can even contact them via phone. So next part is all about fees and reimbursements. And I know many of you will have a lot of questions about this. So ADF will only process the reimbursements after you've successfully passed each subject. This means you have to cover the costs until you're passed, and then ADF will reimburse you that cost. However, please don't be alarmed because there's other ways for you paying your fees before this reimbursement happens. Some of you might know, but to those who don't know, who haven't studied in a university for a while, all IT Masters and CSU courses are fee help supported. And to just to recap on what fee help is a government loan program to assist eligible fee paying students. If you take out a fee loan, government pays the loan amount direct to university, and a help loan depth is recorded within the ETO. You'll be required to pay back the help loan when your income reaches the certain threshold, which is currently sitting at $46,620, but don't quote me on that because next year might change. So in summary, there are 3 options for you to pay your course fees before they are reimbursed. First one being you can pay them all out of your own pocket. Second one is you can pay part upfront. Second part can go to fee help by filling out that form. Or lastly, you can put all your fees to fee help. And if you need, or if you want to know more about what fee help is, you can type in study assist, and then their website will come up. There's further information about the loan program, about eligibility, and some of the repayments. Thanks. I'll just move it on.
Thank you. I just saw a couple of questions about eligibility for studying in the first place with IT Masters or Chartered or indeed any postgrad. And I always forget about the assumed knowledge that I carry into these things. I used to work in the, I guess, the sales and the student support side of things with IT Masters, and the threshold for eligibility into the courses in order to support, in this case, the ADF program, might be lower than you think. If you have any bachelor, so for Sheila Grayson in the Q&A, a bachelor in criminology and criminal justice, you would be eligible for postgraduate entry, whether it's the master's or the grad cert. Slightly more difficult, but really not that much, is if you have never completed university level, like bachelor level certificates. All we'd really require then is sort of a demonstration of an aptitude. It might be 2 years job experience. It might be the fact you've done a few short courses. It might be a well demonstrated and justified, I guess, application based on private interest that goes back a long time and sort of extracurricular programs that you've been involved with, volunteering or just sort of creating your own lands or whatever it is. If you can justify your application based on your interest and experience, then really there's nothing to stop you from getting into our courses. And again, it would be a good idea to contact us and sort of have a chat before you go into things, just to, first of all, alleviate any of the doubts that you might have, and then sort of go on and make sure that we're planning the right steps, sort of making sure that we're sort of suggesting the right subjects to start with once you do start studying, based on, I guess, your experience levels and what you want to get out of the postgraduate award. And that's sort of where we really come in. So once you make your applications, then sort of we can talk about which subject plans you want to go for, which area of cybersecurity you want to work in will dictate which subjects you choose to a large degree, and also the extent of the cybersecurity subjects versus some of the more, I guess, networking or cloud-based ones, if you are looking at, I guess, a broader degree, like a master's in networking. So course planning support is probably where we are most helpful. And it will also be really helpful to sort of, for those that are inexperienced, to get in touch with the team before submitting your application, just to maybe firm up your ideas about what areas you're keen on, and sort of have a compelling narrative for yourself, as well as the admissions team at Charles Sturt University, as well as the people who are going to be administering the ADF program, because it seems from previous results that they like to get a healthy mix of established and entrenched applicants who have already got demonstrated experience and capabilities. And they also like to have sort of a diverse crowd of people from diverse backgrounds in terms of who they are and in terms of their experiences in industries, so that they can sort of draw as many different ideas in as they can. So there's all sorts of people who are going to have a really good shot of nailing this this application process. Other than that, what happens next? The selection process will be finalised on the 10th of December. Previously, it's sort of been fairly sporadic in terms of like when they announce who wins and who doesn't, but now everyone will know on the 10th of December, hopefully. And then I guess the really important thing is there's a few hundred spaces available and a few hundred people who are just interested in this webinar. So there is a chance that you won't be successful. And then the question becomes, what next? If you're still keen on, I guess, plotting a path to study, maybe not sort of jumping in boots and all, which I think, being successful in the ADF program would, allow you to do. There's lots of other ways to study, and you can sort of start with short courses, or you can maybe work on one subject at a time, or maybe, just this will be the impetus that you needed to sort of start looking at it and start, I guess, internalizing what you would need to do in your life to make it possible. It's, there's time and there's money considerations and there's family considerations and work considerations. But there are ways around it a lot of the time, and sometimes the first step is just the hardest. So to the extent that this provides, a sort of a shove on the way to the first step, I think it's really useful no matter what. And we'll I'll just scroll through and have a look at, I guess, some of the other ways you can get involved, some of the resources that we have that might be useful. If we go to the next slide, we've got, the short course that starts tomorrow. You could do much worse, I think, than sort of getting inspired by Matt Constable about the various and many applications of cybersecurity and the various and many ways of getting involved, the huge diversity of roles available in a cybersecurity field.
Is that enthused all the time, by the way?
Yeah, it's frankly terrifying, and it's not just IT that he's enthusiastic about, but any sort of skill set can be applied in cybersecurity, right? Like if you talk too much like me, then you could potentially be really good at I guess the social engineering side of security, or just use those skills in sort of forensic investigations, or the stuff that'll help outside of the forensic side of investigations. So anyone can do it, really, if they've got I guess the gumption. These short courses are really useful, though. I'm just waffling on now. Do 3 of them and you get a short course credit. So that'll help in any case, whether you're with the ADF Cyber Gap Program or not. Look at these ADF Cyber Gap Program resources. We're going to send you out an email with the recording links and all sorts of other links in the next sort of 24 hours or so. And then have a look at the university subjects. A lot of them are really exciting. I know there's a couple of people in here doing subjects already. I can see someone's involved in dark web. So anyone who wants to post some insights in the chat would be, I'd be most obliged. Yeah, other than that, we're just limited by, imaginations and of course all of the other terrifying things that are going on in the world. But I think you can certainly get started one way or another. There are loads of questions, heavens above. Anyone out of Fulia, Chantel and Hannah that wants to answer any, shouting would be fine, or just typing the answers. Otherwise, I might just go through them one by one from the very top. So we'll probably try and whittle them down. We've got 63 questions open still. So I might just say maybe in a couple of minutes, Hannah, if you can sort of start cutting out any future ones. So any questions, you can just chuck them in now. Alrighty, so we'll start with John McKay. Is the ADF program run within discrete financial years, or does it bridge multiple financial years for each intake? That might be a full year question.
It does. So ADF 2022 program will commence from January to December of that year, which means it will hit 2 financial years when you think about it that way.
Thank you. Oh, Michael Hardy, yes, this program will definitely continue running. The gap in cyber capacity.
We do not have
in
confirmation,
Australia.
though.
Oh, come on.
Correct. We don't have confirmation, but there's a lot of information out there that says they're investing heavily in this area. They're lacking professionals or even staff members in this area. So they're looking to pump a lot of money as they can internally in Australia.
Yes.
Yes, but
It's
we are saying that there is no official confirmation.
Correct.
We
And
know it is happening next year. We don't know if it's happening in 2023.
I'm sure many people will be applying for the second or third time this time, though. So look forward to applying next time if you're not successful, because they might say that it's not happening. Given this is not the part-time of my life, I'm quite happy to say this gap will not be filled for years to come, and they would be mad to shut it down. Christine asks, so if you have started a Masters of Cybersecurity with another and have not finished, are you eligible with another university, perhaps, Christine? Then yes, still eligible, I would assume, if it's on their list, or if you wanted to jump across to us, we could look at applying some of the credit that you would have earned from previous learning, and would still be eligible for the ADF program because it's on their approved list. If you are doing a course that isn't on the approved list, you could probably just follow up with them and they might not have seen it. Worth a question, and if not, then we'd be happy to help. Sheila, we've answered the question. Really, and like this would be a perfect example, Sheila, of someone from maybe a different background who would have amazing insights into, I guess, cybersecurity. I'd love to hear more about that, but of course.
But it is worth noting that if you have a bachelor in basically anything, you are eligible for a master's. If you don't have a bachelor, it's fine. You're probably still eligible for a grad cert. But again, we have that form, am I eligible? That's worth filling out.
Yeah. Joshua, hi, I'll be starting my grad cert in November. Am I eligible for the ADF Cyber Gap Program?
That's something I was actually confirming for you before, but I haven't got a confirmation yet. Is it 3 subjects in 2022 that you have to study for to qualify?
So there's no specific subject load. As long as you study the duration of the 2022, which means you can study 1 subject a session, you'll be eligible. For example, Joshua, if you've done 1 subject in November, you'll have 3 more to study in the following year, and then that will mean that you'll be eligible if you were to study 1 subject each session.
Yeah, super interesting.
Because we have 3 sessions in a year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see people that are it's fun to see what we can get away with. So like people that might finish a grad cert with 1 subject next year and then articulate into a master's having applied differently.
We did ask about this specifically for one of our current students who are midway through their graduate certificate, and they said as long as it's one of the eligible courses they're articulating into, they'll be eligible.
Amazing, awesome. And also further supporting my argument that this is going to be around for years because they're desperate to help people out, and we're desperate to get students because of COVID, and the whole of the tertiary education sector needs students. So just go for it, can't hurt.
Which is the same question that Gunther asked.
Alrighty, so that was done. Yeah, beauty. Alrighty. Question: yeah, I've completed my grad cert cybersecurity. Am I eligible to apply? Yes, you can do 2 grad certs in cybersecurity if you want, or you can go for a master's and get credit from the first one. All good, go for it. why not?
Yeah, and if you move into a master's, it's 8 subjects as compared to 4, but it's, a master's is higher than a grad cert. That's nice.
And there's opportunity for credits. Don't forget there's going to be Australian Computing Society credit adding onto your degree. So that's, minus that out from however how much that will coming out of your pocket for education purposes. There's always going to be credit opportunities for you.
Yeah. Lionel, I would be very upset if the Cyber Gap program is age limited. Again,
unfortunately, it is.
What? Those monsters?
Yes. It's
What's the age limit?
55.
Let us know. 55.
Quite happy to lie if that affects you, Lionel. Oh, those monsters. I would have thought, again, as diverse a group as possible. But anyway, I guess they make the terrible assumption that all 55-year-olds are like me. And how do I turn this thing on? So we've answered Patrick's question.
For IT professionals, I don't think that will be the case, but I don't know why there's that age limit there.
I don't know. I work for IT Masters.
Also, Guy is nowhere near 55 and he doesn't know how to turn a thing on. So
the Masters is 3 times the cost of the grad cert. I think it's $350 per subject.
It is. It will go up next year. So if you apply and get into it for the 90 session, you get the lower cost. And if it's a grad cert in cybersecurity, it's a discounted cost actually at the moment, which is good to hear. But we haven't got a guarantee that you'll get into the ADF. So it's a toss up there.
Yeah. But 14 grand for a grad cert, 42 for a master's, roughly. MBA computing cybersecurity underway. Yep. Only be subsidies. Yep.
You need to read out the whole question. You can't just.
Oh, sorry. Of course. Steve Cook. I already have an MBA computing cybersecurity underway. So the MBA computing is included in the list of possible courses because there's specializations in that MBA. So Steve's got a cybersecurity specialization underway and would be subsidized for the subjects completed in 2022. So that's very exciting. I hope you're having fun with it, Steve. Let us know in the chat which subjects you're looking at doing next year. Theodore, if I commence the Master of Cybersecurity in semester 3 intake this year, could the fees be covered by the ADF? Yep, again, I answered that one. Lots of people asking the same very sensible questions. We should definitely look at these questions before the next intake so that we can have the correct information on the slides. When the program runs every year from now on.
Somebody's asked, does this have industry-based certificates in the course? So we get you ready for some industry-based certificates, but we don't actually provide them as part of the subjects, mostly because we found it was too difficult to provide those, but also we didn't have any control over them, so we couldn't make sure that they were at master's level. So if you do have industry-based certificates, you can get credit, as I said earlier. But if you don't, you will get some knowledge towards those, but we won't actually provide those as part of those subjects. And that's question answered, right?
Yeah, Thomas is asking a very similar question, talking about the ethical hacker certification and the CISP, both of which, if you have, you would be eligible for credit for.
If you want to know more about what other certificates are available for credit, go on our website and type in credit maps. It will tell you more about which courses have which certificates associated to credit and how they map up. And if you ever have any specific questions, email admin. I'm sure.
Yeah, and as I said, a lot of these subjects really help you to prepare for those exams, but don't include the exams and may not include every bit of information, mostly because we can't control what's in the exam. So we really don't want to promise that you will definitely be able to pass this based on this 12-week subject, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think one of the real advantages of, I guess, doing postgrad study is it's not one or the other. You can have your certifications and you can have your theoretical understanding from some of the, I guess, more academic style subjects, but there's a real focus on how you apply that how those certifications and how that theory is applied in the enterprise setting now, and how it is likely to be applied in the future. And I guess, the more, perspectives and insights you can sort of add, the better it'll be down the track. So, in the dream world, it'd be, why not do all of them? But, it's just a question of targeting the ones that are right for your objectives, which probably segues nicely into Nima's question. Currently studying a grad cert in cybersecurity, working full-time already, and an ACU member. Considering this situation, how does the ADF fits me? And of course, Nima, like the answer is no idea. It depends. And really, it's a question of what you would like to get out of it. If there's specific gaps in knowledge that you feel would be really well suited to studying with us to fill, like you want to do a pen testing subject, forensic investigation subject, whatever it is, like we can tailor the plan to the situation, to the gaps in knowledge. And then if that's the case, and it sounds like something you'd be able to do given your other commitments and would be interested in doing, then absolutely ADF would fit you. It's a question of what the circumstances are. Ben asks what the knowledge prerequisites are, and what the assumed technical knowledge for entering Master of Cybersecurity is. And this sort of relates really back to people concerned about eligibility into the courses in the first place, and also which subjects, given we want pretty much everyone to have a shot at it, and are quite happy to support people in sort of getting up to speed if they need it, in making sure we pick the right subjects at the right time for the right student. So the subject that Chantel showed with the wonderful Matt Constable on the slide is ITI 581, Cybersecurity Fundamentals, and it really is a very good broad introduction to the many domains of cybersecurity, and would be the perfect subject to start with, and would all for people that are sort of coming into it just a little bit green but full of enthusiasm, and would be an excellent way to sort of not only introduce yourself to the subject, but also introduce yourself to the discipline, I should say, but also to university study. We'll support you in terms of, academic support, study tips. Chantel's the master of this, and also direct you to the right short courses to get you up to speed as well, looking at, various areas you want to get interested in as well. Okay, hi there. If I could get an answer at the end of the session, Tony asks, I've just completed an MBA with Charles Sturt and taking a short break from university study. Well earned, Tony. I have 34 years experience in the ICT industry and 15 years working at Telstra. How could this ADF cybersecurity course benefit me obtaining a new job with the ADF? And what exemptions would I need to upgrade my skill sets? Huge question, Tony. And I hope you are not one of those people ruled out by their very silly, although I guess I want a return on investment, whatever, age factor, age threshold.
It just, yeah.
But again, like, it depends, right? This would be the sort of question that would be great to answer in a one-on-one chat when you've had a nice break, when you maybe have a bit of a clear idea of what you're looking for next after a break from university study. But there's so many roles.
You will have a lot of connections in the industry, and specifically connections in the ADF as well.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about the program. I think the networking opportunities, they fly you out, I'm pretty sure, to a couple of events, so you can meet people. They want the best talent to work for them as well, right? Like, for them, it's a very good way of identifying talent that they can then sort of try and woo and get them to work for them, because not everyone wants to work for the ADF. Sure, it sounds like a cool job, but other people might be a bit more reluctant, might be worried about what it actually entails and what the sacrifices and the costs would be, and whether they would outweigh the benefits. So it works both ways, and that's why I think it's a really good program. There's no obligations. Everyone gets a shot at, sort of proving what they want to prove and to whom, and away they go. So Steve, if you finish it earlier, Fulia, Steve asks, there was mention you need to be studying for 12 months. what happens if you complete your degree earlier. If you initially plan on it and then for some reason have to drop it in the final part of the year, what's the issues there?
We might have to have a one-on-one conversation with students who are in this situation. There are different options. We just have to make sure what subjects are left aside when they're getting offered. And if need be, there might be options for that particular student to study concurrently a different degree at the same time, which needs approval from the course director. So it's very unique to each circumstances of each single situation. We can find a way around it. Be assured of that, but we just have to know the background, a little bit more information before I can explain further.
Yeah, so contact us separately, and we can hopefully answer it specific to your circumstances.
Yeah, we like the hard questions. Ian asks, a not hard question, what's the difference between the older Masters of Information Systems Security and the new Master of Cybersecurity? In brief, I'd say structure, a couple of different subjects, and fancy new badging. You know, cybersecurity is a very, it's so hot right now, Ian, and basically we rebadged it and added a couple of very cybersecurity specific subjects and cut out a couple of the, I guess, more tangential or maybe more networking based subjects. So it's a very...
We tried to make Master of Cybersecurity a little bit more, well, not a little bit more, completely, if you wanted to, you could only study cybersecurity subjects and that's fine. Whereas with the Master of Information Systems Security, there's a bit more of a management focus sometimes, or a broader focus at times.
Yeah, we say in our marketing that it's potentially and arguably Australia's most specific or most, you know, focused cybersecurity course, because it really can be tailored to be such, notwithstanding the fact that, you know, cybersecurity is such a huge topic. An anonymous attendee, what are the options if you are unsuccessful with the ADF application? Can you then change your mind? Yes, absolutely. There are census dates that you can pull out by and not be liable for any fees for any subjects you might have started. You might actually feel like not studying unless it is completely subsidized, and that's fine too. And that means as soon as you hear on the 10th of December, I think it was, you know, that they overlooked your immense talents, then you stuff it. I don't want to. That's fine too. We, of course, hope that you will continue on, and then we can just radically change the way in which you study. And I guess that's a different conversation, and it's something we'll be talking about with each applicant individually. But, you know, I guess the fact you're here says to me that you're at least a little bit interested, and it would be nice to, you know, have that itch scratched. But we're not going to lock you in. AJ, university courses and degrees versus industry certifications. I'm confused which way to go. What are the advantages of uni courses? Well, one of the major, oh, sorry, Chantel, go for it. I talk fast.
You do talk a lot, but it's always good advice. But my thing here is, one of the things we're trying to offer here is a kind of a mesh between the two, because one of the benefits of uni courses, it doesn't expire. You can leave your uni course on your degree until the end of your career, whereas with an industry certification, most of them expire after a certain amount of time. Depends on the course itself, but they do. And we're trying to give you an overarching perspective there. Guy, I don't know what your perspective there was.
Completely lost my train of thought, but broadly, it depends on also your situation now. If you already have a job in the field that you want to be in, and have all of the contacts you need, then maybe you don't need a uni course. If you are applying for an entry-level job or looking to transition from one industry to another or one area of IT to another, often job postings will say things like, must have this level of education, and it's just perhaps a a sad reflection of the job market as it is, and of a user-pays system of education, that the reality is, like, you're just going to need it if you want to get your foot in the door. So it's a very useful, door foot holder, and will, of course, be its own reward to some extent as well. Like, I like to think that it is worthwhile pursuit, or even if it was just done out of interest. But in terms of the functional use of it, it's also good vocationally and sort of functionally. Ben asks, will the grad cert or masters provide the necessary mathematical, programming and computer science knowledge to reason about complex cybersecurity problems? Or is it more about learning to run cybersecurity tools and perform automated scans? Honestly, it's the latter with our course. We figure that a lot of the sort of programming and language knowledge that you will need is very well covered in free courses all over the place, and something that can be learnt there. You can do little short courses, you can do them all over the place, and they're fantastic. And we probably wouldn't be able to, I guess, add much complexity to it. Where we come in is sort of when it's more about, using critical analytical skills to design things for a particular solution, where it's sort of like which thing, when, and why are the answers that sort of need questioning. With respect to sort of big data and a mathematical side of computing, there's a couple of subjects that we have sort of a tangential relation to with grad cert in data science. Really cool, not something that IT Masters really administers. We've got a couple of subjects in there that sometimes has a bit of crossover. But if you're interested in that area specifically, and it's not in the course that you are otherwise interested in, go nuts, have a look at all of the things that are out there and say, I want to do this, come to us, and then we'll try and get the course amendment to get it across the line. Because unless there's a very good reason not to do it, it makes sense to just give you the skills that you want, or at least access to building the skills. Ekamaya Sari, will part-time study and full-time study be accepted, or just full-time? Part-time is okay.
Most of our students, or the vast majority of our students, are part-time students.
Yeah, and I think it's just the reality with postgrad study. Might not be the case with undergrad, but postgrad, lots of people have pets or plants or children or jobs, or drinking problems or COVID problems. Who knows? Probably
the children and the, whatever, and jobs go above the pets and the plants, but still.
I like fluffy things. Patrick Anderson, what if you don't have much industry experience? Yeah, that can be difficult, but if you do short courses, if you do have personal interest that isn't sort of paid, it should be fine. And if you've got a bachelor's degree, doesn't matter. You can just jump right in. John, if applying to the ADF program this round and not successful, no, you're absolutely not precluded from being able to apply again the following year. I don't know, Fulia, have we got any testimonials that sort of people that applied the first time didn't get in, applied the second time, got in?
I don't remember what I do remember. So what ADF does is if you're successful, they'll send you that successful email. But if you're in between of not being successful and in between of successful, they'll put you on a waiting list, what is called a merit list. And I'm sure a lot of people in that list will be made favored towards the following year. We don't have the data, unfortunately, because this program is very new. Please know that 2020 intake was a pilot program. It was very small, and 2021 program was the biggest intake they had since they had this come through. So 2022 will tell us more about your question, but obviously, yes. As long as ADF Cyber Gap Program selection process, they understand where you're coming from, how much you want to learn, they will seek you out, because that's what they want to know, how much you want to be invested in cyber and IT world.
Thank you. Sandeep asks about deferring units to complete in the second half of 2022. And I think you might not be able to deliberately defer it, or if you want to do it for some reason, then as Fulia said earlier, maybe get in touch with us. The interesting thing will be when the subjects that you want to study are only available in sort of, let's say, the first session and the third session. Again, that's going to be something that we will definitely make sure to advocate on your behalf and put the best foot forward and paint you in your best possible light if there are any issues with the ADF. But from my understanding is like, it's just, if you're entering things in good faith and in the right spirit, then nothing really should be an issue.
I don't recommend deferring at all. You don't want to take yourself out from the study mode of mindsets. You can study one subject, 2 subjects at a time, which is a part-time load, but deferring will mean putting a full stop on your studies and coming back later a stage after 3 or 6 months time, which is not ideal when you lose that focus, as well as some of the subjects might not be offered. Like Guy said, there's other opportunities for you to move on in a different degree and get that offer back, but putting a full stop, which might cause a different effect.
Yeah, momentum is important just in the study experience as well, as Chantel will no doubt tell you once you apply, and is always available, like always does like a welcome to studying session. Pratap is wondering about, once you finish your grad cert, can you upgrade it to a master's, or even if you're in the middle of a grad cert, can you upgrade to a master's, or vice versa? Yes, you can apply for a grad cert, and once you finish, go straight up to the master's. No worries at all, Pratap. You can also, if you enroll in a master's and circumstances change, contingent on you having completed 4 subjects, you can exit the course with a grad cert awarded. Theodore, a question regarding the short courses. Do specific short courses give credit to an elective industry credit, or do any mix of 3 short courses give credit? It is the latter. Any 3 short courses we figure is sufficient effort and will be sufficiently closely related to the topic at hand, given we run them, to award an elective industry credit. And it's an unspecified credit, as we call it, so it's not tied to any specific subject. ADF program costs. I don't think there are any. John?
I thought the aim was that ADF covered all the costs.
Yeah, any costs you incur, it's a scam. They've somehow cyber scammed you, which would be quite something. Alrighty. Anonymous attendee asks, if I was successful with the ADF Gap program and went ahead and completed the Masters, how much out of pocket would I be? It would be $28,000, provided you didn't have any credits, but we'd figure out a way to get you credits as well. Basically, for every subject that you don't have to pay, take off, let's say, $3.5 grand. Short courses, ACS membership, you would be easy looking at 2 credits plus. But if you have to do all 8 subjects, or want to do all 8 subjects, as I often say to people seeking credit, are you sure you want to not do the subjects? It would be 28,000. John Suarez asks whether the subjects are delivered during the day or afternoon. The webinars for each subject are done in the evening, but there are recordings available, in fact, for all of our content, and there is no real definite expectations that you do any certain thing at a certain time, because we figure if you enroll in an online course, then you should be able to do it online as flexibly as possible. And Chantel, being the world's best education director, makes the very sensible point that you should never have to do group work in an online course.
Well, I assume most people who are working in the industry do group work every day and don't have time to do it when they're studying, I hope.
I specifically work against people. It's a great time. What a ride. Well over half an hour of questions there, I think. 105 questions answered and only 13 dismissed. Sorry for those that I dismissed unceremoniously. Thanks heaps, everyone, for hanging around. You did a great job. If you like long-winded IT chats, then come along tomorrow night to the first webinar of the short course, where Hannah and I will be with Matt Constable talking about cryptography. Would be great fun. And hey, Fulia and Chantel, thanks so much for your insights and knowledge and efforts and sticking around out of hours, and crucially for, I guess, helping people get the most out of this opportunity with the ADF Cyber Gap Program. I think it's really nice of you. Well done.
Someone just called it juicy content, which I think is a compliment, maybe.
Depends on the juice. Like multivitamin, you know, that multivitamin juice? I always hated that. Anyway. Hey,
All right,
everyone,
then.
thanks heaps. If you have any questions, get in touch. We'll send you a recording and a bunch of links. Fulia, thank you. Chantel, thank you. Hannah, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for making it such a robust discussion full of questions.
And as always, if you have further questions, please just contact us. You could email us or call us, admin@itmasters.edu.au or 1300 885 685, which is on the screen, and ask us the questions you have that we didn't get to today.
Yeah, might leave it to Fulia to sign us off, and then I'll end the webinar.
Fulia was given no preparation that she had to sign us off.
Yes, I had no idea about this, so please feel free to leave before I find how
You
to
don't
do
have
that.
to go home, but you can't stay here. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.